Hi, I'm Andrea Beaulieu. Lecterns, scripts, PowerPoint. Are these tools or are they traps? I love them all, and I coach others how to use these. It's easy to get really black and white about these. Some people will tell you, never stand behind the lectern. Don't use a script, you're going to sound scripted. Oh, death by PowerPoint. And all of these can be true. But here are a couple tips for you about each one of these tools. Lectern, the President of the United States, Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, all of these people have stood behind a lectern to deliver very powerful speeches because in that situation, in those situations, it was appropriate. So a lectern can be a really powerful, wonderful tool for you to use in the right situations. But that doesn't mean you stand behind there and just get dull and don't do anything with your body. You can be very alive, right? But again, depending on the situation, you don't want to stand behind the lectern when you're trying to really engage your audience, where you want to be there for them and connect with them emotionally. However, you can still use the lectern. I often take a lectern, instead of standing behind it like this, I might angle it like that, put my notes on, step out from behind it, use the stage, but always have my notes there in case I need to look at them. Or maybe I need to share something with them that I want to read verbatim. I'd go and I'll look at it and I'll read it. So you can learn how to use a lectern to your advantage. Scripts. I script almost everything. And I'm going to tell you why. I script it because I want to make sure that I'm being very purposeful in how I am sharing my information, in the flow of it, in the use of all the data and the stories, in the open, in the close, to make sure that they connect. Most professional speakers script everything that they do. Now, does it look like you're using a script? No, because you learn it. You learn your script so that you can share it easily. And during your speech, you can veer off of it and be very spontaneous with your audience. It doesn't mean that you're sitting there, saying it like a robot. No. I think if you take a look at my speaking video and a lot of other people, don't think that because somebody is being very alive and very spontaneous that they aren't scripted. They are. Most are. Now, for example, though, I'm not scripted at all in this. I did not script myself, and I never do for these videos, because I have in my mind a few things that I want to talk about, and then I see where I go with them. But I end up doing them several times until I get it right. So it really depends on what you're doing. With stories, I write out my stories, but then I learn them. And they're never the same twice. I always tell them a little differently. But because a story needs to have that dramatic arc, if you don't write them out and make sure that you know where you're going and you're using a turn of phrase and your humor, you're not going to get the response. All right, last but not least, PowerPoint, or really visuals, because that's like the Kleenex of things. It could be Prezi. PowerPoints are to give the visual to support what you're saying, and only when you need to do that. When I do training, I'm almost always using PowerPoint because there's often a lot of information I want to convey, or I want to use a special video to make people, or a visual to make people laugh, or video. But when I do a keynote, I hardly ever use it, unless it's something I need to back up, something very specific that I need to show someone. And again, stories, I don't use PowerPoint or anything like that. So PowerPoint is a tool for you, not a crutch, not a trap. I hope this information has given you some food for thought, and I guess I would urge you to not go black and white with any of these tools, that you should always do this or never do that. Use them to your advantage so that they are tools and not traps. And remember, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. So make sure that your play is authentically yours. See you later.